Hi guys, this is Christine, your relationship and mindset master doctor and your leverage for change. Today I'm going to be speaking about something that we all want, a place where we all want to get to, especially pertaining to the different attachment styles. And so, we have approximately 4 attachment styles, and we're all trying to get to the place of being more secure, which is what we all want to be so that we can have healthier relationships and also to respond in better ways in our relationships. So, both the anxious preoccupied, the dismissive avoidant, the fearful avoidant that has both the dismissive and the anxious together, they will need to get to this place that I'm going to be speaking about, the different pointers, to really get to this place, to know, these are markers that I want to give to you so you can kind of look at it and say, okay, this is what I need to get to, and this is where I am now, so I need to kind of do this to get to this place. The first one I'm going to mention is the ability to regulate your emotions when challenges come your way. And I speak about this all the time in my coaching sessions because this is one of the most important things that you can do. And this is especially pertaining to the anxious, preoccupied individual, because the anxiety is one of the downfalls of this particular attachment style, because instead of this attachment style gets really anxious over when they're triggered. That's basically it. They get anxious when they're triggered. So the ability to be able to kind of manage your emotions and to regulate your emotions is very important to in the road towards getting to become more secure, right? And how do you do this? Basically, try to question. You do this by questioning your stories. And what are those stories? It's those thoughts that keep coming to mind. Sometimes they come automatically without any kind of anything that's causing it to come. It just comes because we're always thinking something, right? And these thoughts cause us to have certain emotions, and those emotions cause us to behave in a certain way, right? So, but most of the time, if we're not aware of what's happening, we don't even realize it was a thought that caused that emotion, that caused that behavior. We just something happens, a thought comes to mind, and we just find ourselves behaving and reacting to that thought without even realizing why it is that we are reacting in this way. So the moment you're able to become aware that this is a process that happens, and now work on being questioning your thoughts on a regular basis, this is how you're going to learn to become. This is the road to becoming more secure, so that when you're able to manage those thoughts, okay? The next thing is the ability to recognize your internal narrative and seek to understand, right, your self-talk. A lot of us, we just say things to ourselves every single day without recognizing what it is we're saying, because all of this is going on automatically, guys. We don't pay attention to it, and so it slips under the radar, and now we find ourselves feeling some certain ways that make us, as again, respond in certain ways, right? Because we feel those emotions, and our behavior is the result of what we this internal narrative that we have, that we just accepted as true. All right, so when you're secure, you're able to recognize your internal narrative, right? And you're able to say, is this true? I mean, does this these thoughts, are they true? Is it something that I can if they're true, can I do something about it, right? And so you're able to respond in a different way, because you have now become aware of your internal narrative, and you recognize it, and you can understand what this self-talk is saying to you and question it, so that you're able to stop it, or heal that thing that's causing, or change the meaning of what that internal narrative is saying to you. All right, the next thing is healing your core wounds. And I won't go into all the core wounds of all the different attachment styles in here, but there's so many videos on YouTube which kind of describe what the core wounds are for the anxious, for the dismissive, and for the fearful avoidant individual. All right, so know that one of the things that you have to really become aware of is your core wounds. What are these core wounds, and what are the triggers to these core wounds? Once you become aware of these aspects of your core wounds, you're able to be, when you're more aware of it, you're going to see it. It's going to say, oh my goodness, that is what is happening. This is why I'm responding in this way, because I was triggered, because this is what I fear, abandonment. So when this person did not text me back, this is why I was triggered. So once you know what your core wounds are, and you know how your usual pattern of responding was, of reacting, which is basically what it is, what your usual pattern of reacting was in the past, then you know how to change those. The other thing that shows that you've become more secure is when you start feeling comfortable communicating your needs to other people, and to understand that if there is evidence of the person trying to meet your needs, then you have to learn to be patient, because nobody's perfect, and this person is just learning just the way that you are. So if you communicate your needs, right, because a lot of individuals have a problem communicating their needs in a relationship, specifically the anxious, preoccupied, because people, your needs are always, you're always keeping it, you're always meeting other people's needs other than your own, right, at the expense of your own. So being able to really feel comfortable communicating your needs is a big step towards becoming more secure. The other thing that is also a problem for the anxious, preoccupied is the ability to express boundaries and to maintain them, right? And also the ability to recognize that once you set a boundary, which is something that you're doing that's new, you're going to have pushback from the people that used to break your boundaries every single time. So just be able to recognize that and be able to maintain that boundary by saying, no, this is where I am right now. This is a boundary I set. I don't want you to go past that. So when you get to that place where you're able to express your boundaries, be okay with when they push back, because understanding that it's a normal thing for them to push back, and still maintain your boundaries, then you're on the road to becoming more secure. The other thing that you need to get to is to the ability to understand that someone else's behavior is strictly their responsibility. Because we have a tendency, and especially again, this is the anxious, preoccupied again, guys, you take on you accept people's behavior, and sometimes you will even apologize for their behavior, or you might try and change them, right? You might try to change someone because, or change their way of thinking. But what you have to learn and recognize on the way to becoming more secure is that this person's misbehavior is their responsibility. They have to work. You cannot force people to behave in a certain way. When they behave in a certain way, it's their responsibility and their responsibility alone. And recognize that it's not personal. And so for you to learn also not to internalize this behavior, and to take responsibility for it as your fault. Okay, maybe you might say, the reason why they behave like that was because I did this, right? But even no matter what you did, if they behave like that, that is their way of responding, and that's their responsibility. Okay, you take responsibility for your way of behaving, and they have to take responsibility for their way of behaving. That is when you become more secure. Then the other step to becoming more secure is the ability to recognize that you cannot change anyone. I kind of stepped on that a little earlier. The ability to recognize that you cannot change anyone, unless they recognize that they need to change something and then they work to change it. You cannot change anyone. This is also a problem for the anxious, preoccupied, because you guys have the tendency of when somebody, you feel, the project, you might have heard that anxious, preoccupied like to take on a project, because it's like you feel that you can fix someone, and you feel that you're You just feel like you are such a sweet and nice person that you're going to be there for them no matter what, even when they treat you like crap, right? So what you need to do is recognize that you cannot change anyone unless they come to that awareness that something that they're doing is wrong, and that they also take that responsibility to change themselves. The next thing, of course, is having a strong sense of self, an identity, an identity of who are you? A lot of people don't know who they are anymore, and this is also the anxious preoccupied guys. And the problem is that when the anxious preoccupied is in a relationship, they basically just morph into that person's life. They kind of just lose themselves into it, and now if this person's goal is this, that's their goal too. If this person's behavior is this, now they're behaving that way. So this is a problem with somebody who is an anxious preoccupied. That's a problem that they have a lot, because they just lose their whole identity, their whole self, into somebody else. All right, so when you start now being aware of and knowing who you are as an individual, then you're on the way without the need to have have anyone else kind of define who you are. Then you're on the way to becoming more secure. The next thing is the ability to understand someone else's behavior, hear them out, right? Because we all have different ideas of things. We all behave in different ways. We all have different belief systems, whether they're right or wrong, right? But when you have the ability to listen to somebody else and not just say, oh, you're wrong, without even listening to what they're saying and not even wanting to hear what they're saying, then you're not at a secure place, because you are now diminishing other people's reality over yours. So when you're secure, you have the ability to really understand someone else's behavior, right? Hear them out, knowing they have the right to their own opinions, just like you have the right to your own opinions, and you can still respectfully disagree with their opinions or belief or whatever it is that they're saying. But just the ability to be able to hear them out and say, okay, I understand your perspective, I understand what you're saying, but this is my perspective. That's it. That is when you become more secure, right? The next thing is the ability to learn from instead of living your past. I know someone, every time you speak to this person, they just live in the past. They cannot move forward because they remember all the terrible things that happened in the past. And I mean, even before they were born, they keep regurgitating this thing in the past, these things that they heard about their past, and this person cannot move forward. So when you have the ability to really learn from your past versus live in your past, then you're on your way to becoming more secure. The next thing is also the ability to forgive. The ability to forgive is one of those things that I work on early on in when I'm working with you, because a lot of it is, there's a lot of resentment to people or things that happened in your past, and so you have to be able to forgive before you can move forward to healing. All right, and so the ability to forgive others who've hurt you, and remembering that forgiveness does not mean that you're going to allow these people back in your lives to hurt you. Forgiveness is really to detach yourself from them, because when you have unforgiveness for someone, it's almost like you're carrying around this monkey on your back all the time, because you always have this baggage with you, carrying around this hate and resentment and thing around this person, interaction with this person. So forgiveness is for you, it's not for them. Okay, they don't have to apologize, it's for you. But you can only move forward when you're able to let go of the past and all that past hurts and pains that you've suffered. All right. The next thing is the ability to be comfortable in your own company. Oh, by the way, guys, the ability to learn from your past, those people living in the past are usually in the dismissive, avoidant, individual attachment style, and the fact that they can't forgive usually is it was with that particular attachment style. The next thing is the ability to be comfortable in your own company, with your own company. This is for the anxious preoccupieds. because being alone for the anxious preoccupied is very difficult. You know, they always want someone around. It's like being by themselves is just not enough. They need someone to soothe them. They need someone to love them. Because a lot of times they don't really love themselves, or they haven't learned to soothe themselves from their past hurts and anxieties. And so they usually need someone in a relationship. And when you need someone and you're not comfortable being alone, what that sets you up for is that you'll just take anyone, right? Just anyone. No matter how they treat you, how bad they treat you, or what they do to you, you just want to have someone in your life. You just have to have this person or other people in your life who may not treat you well, or just make you feel less than, and messes up with your self-worth and everything like that. But you have to have someone. And so the moment you're able to recognize that you can be alone and you're comfortable being alone, then that's when you're on your way to becoming more secure as well. The next one I would say is the ability to self-soothe yourself. The anxious preoccupied also is the one that will have this problem. The dismissive avoidant had learned from their childhood to self-soothe, so they don't have this problem. So this would be for the anxious preoccupied, the ability to self-soothe instead of looking outside of yourself for others to make you feel good, or make you feel happy, or make you feel loved. Right? So when you get to that place where you can now self-soothe yourself, you're on the way to becoming more secure. The next one is the ability to respond rather than feel compelled to react to circumstances without becoming easily flustered. And this is usually the anxious preoccupied as well. Seems like a lot of this is really for the anxious preoccupied, and unfortunately that is true. So, you know, when the person is able to, when the anxious person is able to be able to calm themselves down, because usually they are anxious, so they act very quickly and they just act without thinking, right? And so when you're able to kind of calm yourself down, be able to think in a logical way instead of emotionally, right? And using and respond rather than react instantly to whatever is happening around you, then you're on your way to becoming more secure. Also, the next thing is the ability to, when you're able to recognize your role in a problematic situation, because that takes self-awareness. And when you're able to accept your responsibility in that problematic situation, then, you know, the fact is, and also not only accept the responsibility, but knowing that you're capable of making mistakes. You made a mistake, you learn from that mistake you made, and you apologize to the person that you've harmed or hurt in some way. All right, when you're able to do this, and you're becoming much more secure. This problem is going to be more for the dismissive avoidant individual, because they will not kind of they don't want to be vulnerable enough to say that they're wrong. They kind of they just disappear. That's what they do when they might suspect that something is not working. They will not be able to they're also not very self-aware, because they don't want to really think on the things that they are not doing well at. All right, the next thing is to becoming more secure is the ability to be vulnerable when required. And this is also for the dismissive avoidant, because in any relationship, whether it be in an intimate relationship or just friendships, it is necessary that each person in that relationship has that ability to become vulnerable, to be vulnerable in certain situations where it is required, right? Because otherwise, if one person is being vulnerable and the other person is just shut off, then the relationship is going to be very one-sided, and after a while resentment is going to build and from the other partner. And so this is going to be a problem for the dismissive avoidant individual, because they need to work on that area of being more vulnerable and realizing that, yes, you know, I was wrong, yes, you know, I should have done this differently. That kind of a vulnerability, or, you know, yes, this happened because of that, but I'm going to do better now because now I recognize it. No, they're not able to kind of be introspective in that way, And so this is going to be more a challenge and something that the dismissive avoidant attachment style has to work on. The last thing I have for today is the ability to engage and connect with others without actually feeling the need to have others fulfill your needs, that you can easily fulfill for yourself, but you just never learned how. And this is going to be a problem for the anxious preoccupied as well. So that for them to be able to really engage and connect with others, a lot of times they engage and connect with others only because they need for them to fulfill certain needs for them, right? And they look outside of themselves to really have their needs fulfilled. So if when they come to a place where they're more secure, they still have that ability to, because they're good connectors. The anxious preoccupied, they're good connectors. They're able to engage and connect with others, but they don't feel the need that these people that they're connecting with will need to fulfill their needs, to make them feel loved, to make them feel wanted, to make them feel valuable. All right, so these are things that each different attachment styles will have to work on. And I hope that I kind of give you some markers that you can pay attention to and that you know you need to work on to becoming more secure. Guys, there's something that I forget what it is. Anyway, so this is Christine, your relation. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. That will really help me a lot to continue to make these free videos for you guys, that you can learn to really grow in your journey of growing and becoming more healthy and just having better relationships. This is Christine, your relationship and mindset master doctor, and your leverage for change. In the meantime, guys, keep growing. Bye-bye.